Am I the asshole for telling my sister I hope she never has kids? I, 22 female, have 3-year-old twin boys, and I just had a baby girl not even 2 days ago. My sister Jody is 34 and has been suffering with infertility for the past 10 years, as well as repeated miscarriages. I used to feel really bad for her, and also a bit guilty, as I got pregnant twice while on contraception. It caused some tension between us when I was pregnant with my twins, because she was jealous and I was already feeling intense guilt. This time around, she wasn't as jealous, but I still felt it was unfair. As my husband and I have decided that we are done having kids, I offered to be a surrogate for my sister as soon as I'm cleared after this baby, and she seemed like she was absolutely over the moon with that. In turn, she offered to watch the twins while I was in labor with my new baby, which was a huge relief on our part. I went into labor on Thursday morning, and Jody came over to watch the kids while my husband and I went to the hospital. She seemed like she was in a great mood and promptly rushed us out the door. Everything seemed fine until we got home this morning to find thousands of dollars worth of destruction to pretty much every baby item we've purchased. Even the crib mattress was torn open. Everything was ruined. Jody tried to pin it on the twins, but they are 3, and this level of destruction had to have been done by an adult. My twins can't even reach some of the stuff that was Part 2. Am I the asshole for telling my sister I hope she never has kids? Everything was ruined. Jody tried to pin it on the twins, but they are 3, and this level of destruction had to have been done by an adult. My twins can't even reach some of the stuff that was destroyed, and they certainly do not know how to open diaper packages and tear them apart. I know kids, especially toddlers, can cause a lot of damage in a short time, but I also know my children aren't capable of doing what happened. I told my sister to get the fuck out of my home and to stay away from me and my family. I got really angry and said a lot of stuff I shouldn't have, but one of them was, I hope you never have a child, and if you do, I'll tell it exactly what you've done to mine. I told her we can't afford to fix the damage she's caused, but since she still denies it, she won't cough up. I told her because of her, the baby doesn't even have a safe space to sleep. My parents caught wind of what I said, and even after I explained the situation, they still think I'm being an asshole for saying something so vile to my sister after all she's done for us. Obviously, my judgment is clouded. So, am I the asshole for telling my sister I hope she never has kids? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
My husband's aunt who criticized my bond with my cat after having a baby. Hey everyone, I found myself in need of some judgment since my family's divided and I still think I'm not wrong. I'm a woman in my late 20s and I recently became a mother. Alongside my newfound role as a mom, I have a cherished cat whom I have always shared a deep bond with. Even after the arrival of my baby, I have made a point to continue involving my cat in our family life. We still go on little walks together around the garden, just the 2 of us, and I make sure to spend quality time snuggling and bonding with her. I also love how much my girl loves and cares for the baby. During a visit from my husband's family, his aunt decided to share their unsolicited opinion with me. My cat is really shy with people, so she was in my room looking through the window. When she wants my attention, she makes a particular meow. Well, my husband came and let me know she made the noise, so of course I went to go check on her. When I got back, his aunt started saying that having a baby and having a cat could be dangerous. Am I wrong for kicking my husband's aunt out of the house after she criticized my bond with my cat after having a baby? His aunt implied that I shift my focus away from my cat. She said that it was not natural and that I should just focus on my baby and that a cat is a cat. I told her to get out of my house now. She was astonished and I told her it's extremely rude to go to other people's houses and start criticizing how they live, especially when we barely have a relationship and I've only seen you 3 times, including once at the wedding. She and her sister got out and my husband told me I was right, but I was rude and could have said that in a better way. My sister-in-law, who was present, thinks I overreacted. I told my best friend and she's with me, but she also is a cat lover, so I don't know if it counts. There is a recent update, you guys, and it says, I agree with y'all, I did overreact. I'm not going to try and justify myself. I need to learn better coping skills for the situations, and that's on the top of my list. She also says that she will apologize. Am I wrong for being uncomfortable with my boyfriend's friend calling me the B word? I'm 31 female living with my boyfriend Mike, who is 34. Mike has a friend Victor who comes over a lot, and yesterday he came over to watch baseball with Mike. Victor asked me to pass him a beer, so I passed one over, but I dropped it. It didn't crack open or anything, but he said, "Nice one, bitch." I was honestly shocked and said, "Excuse me?" He started laughing and Mike joined in. Remember Mike, my boyfriend? Yeah. I was very uncomfortable and genuinely didn't know what to say. I told Victor that I didn't appreciate him calling me the B word, and he got super defensive and said he was saying it jokingly. I said it doesn't matter how you were saying it, I'm still uncomfortable. He got super huffy saying that I was being sensitive and that I'm probably going to accuse him of being a sexist now and that he can't say anything these days. This was wild because A, I said nothing about sexism, and B, what do you mean can't say anything? Can't call women the B word unsolicited anymore? Like, what was the point? Am I wrong for being uncomfortable with my boyfriend's friend calling me the B word? I asked my boyfriend why he wasn't defending me, and he said, I don't know, babe, you're being a little dramatic. I had enough, so I told them both to leave, and they went to Victor's to watch the game. I thought I was in the right until Mike texted me angrily and said I'd embarrassed him in front of a friend by being so melodramatic. He said that Victor meant no harm, and it's like how my friends call me the B word jokingly and lovingly. He said it was also uncalled for me to kick them out when Mike literally lives there. I explained that when me and my friends say it, we're okay with it and it's not in a derogatory manner. Plus, my friends are wonderful women who have supported me for years, not some friend of my boyfriend who I barely know. He called me annoying again and then turned his notifications off. Last night he slept over at Victor's and hasn't come back home since. I think I might be the asshole here because it's true that my friends do call me that word, although it's different as I said above. It is possible that it confused Victor and made him think it was okay. Am I wrong? Am I wrong for not using my husband's hilarious gift? He told me he wanted me to wear this gift the next time his friends came over, and when I opened it up, it was a red latex dress and also a ball, something that named was SAG. It was designed to look like a soccer ball, and the dress is in the team colors. I didn't know what to say at first and was so confused. He's never been into anything like that and is very vanilla. I asked if it was a joke, and at first he said no and told me his friends wouldn't believe how lucky he was. I can't remember what I said next, but he started telling me to lighten up and it would just be hilarious. I gave it a nervous laugh and I told him I thought it was funny too. This morning he put both items on my dresser and said he's looking forward to seeing me in them when the guys come around tomorrow. I reminded him that he said it was a joke and he got a bit sulky and said he can't believe I don't have a sense of humor. But from what he's saying, it sounds like he's expecting me to wear it. I don't know if it's a joke because his friends think I talk too much or if he'd actually get off on me being humiliated. Am I wrong for not using my husband's hilarious gift? I think this is part 3 of also me sharing my perfume collection. Also, you guys comment down below your favorite current perfume. My husband, 29 male, and I, 26 female, have been married for 4 years. I had a great job in sales before COVID, but we found out during the pandemic things just work better with husband at work and me at home. He earns enough to support us both, but I never thought I'd be a traditional wife. And sometimes I feel like I should pick up a lot of the slack at home. I'm not a great cook, but I am very sociable and enjoy being a hostess. So when my husband has friends come over to watch soccer, I prep a huge tray of snacks, keep the beer on ice, and pop in with drinks and food. I don't stay to watch, but I do ask the guys how they're doing and just be polite. Well, last week he came home with a beautifully gift-wrapped box and said he got me something to wear when his friends are next over. He had this huge grin on his face and was so excited, and when I opened it up, it was a red latex dress with a ball, something that names was SAG.
Am I the asshole for refusing to pay child support until my rights are established? I, 29 male, used to date my ex-girlfriend Jane, 30 female, until I caught her with my ex-friend and roommate Ted, 32 male. We broke up and I moved back to my home state and never spoke to either of them again. Most of our mutual friends ended up overlooking the matter since Jane and Ted are in love and planned on getting married, so I cut them all off and just moved on with my life. Fast forward to now, I'm in a much better place and have a high-paying salary and just proposed to my girlfriend Ashley, 26 female. Life was going great for me. I'm not a big social media user, but I did make a post about my engagement, and one of the few friends I kept from my past saw it, and I guess passed the information along to Jane and Ted. Jane attempted to reach out to me, but I blocked her without reading the message because I wanted nothing to do with her. I also told Ashley, and she preemptively blocked her too. Well, Jane kept reaching out with fake profiles, but I ended up deleting my account, but not before I told her that I wanted nothing to do with her and to leave me alone. In my mind, there was no reason for us to communicate for any reason, and I just wanted to live my life. Then Jane reached out to my sister Mandy and told her that I had a son. I thought part 2. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay child support until my rights are established? I thought Jane was full of it because it had been 6 months between me catching her cheating and me moving away before changing my number. And years between then and now, plenty of time for Jane to realize that she was pregnant and contact me about it, or even come after me for child support. I thought she was making up some wild story to get me to talk to her, so I got my lawyer to send her an official letter to leave me alone. The lawyer then came back with a picture of a 5-year-old boy who bore a resemblance to me. Turns out Jane was pregnant, but her and Ted thought the baby was his, because they didn't always use condoms, while I did, and opted not to say anything. They got married, and Ted is the legal father, but when they try to have more kids, it turns out Ted is sterile. Jane and Ted decided to raise the kid as their own without ever saying anything because Ted felt like less of a man for not being able to reproduce. It wasn't until Jane came across my account and saw how nice my life was that she decided her son deserved some of the financial benefits as well. I did a DNA test and I am the father. I agree that child support was required and told Jane and Ted that I would have my lawyer send over details about payments and visitation. Ted was upset and refused to sign away his rights and doesn't want me around his son. Part 3. Am I the asshole for refusing to pay child support until my rights are established? I agreed that child support was required and told Jane that I would have my lawyer send over details about payment and visitation. Ted was upset and refused to sign his rights away and didn't want me around his son. I promptly told them that if I'm going to pay child support, I'm entitled to all the rights that a father is entitled to, and that they wouldn't get a dime from me until then. If they refuse, then I'll just start a savings account for the kid until he's an adult. Jane and Ted are calling me selfish, but since it's coming from them, I'm taking it with a grain of salt. Just to be clear, Ted is the legal father and is still on the birth certificate and is still married to Jane. So as far as the American courts are concerned, I have no rights to the child. But that also means that Jane and Ted can't force me to pay child support. Jane and Ted want me to have no contact with the kid whatsoever, but still discreetly send them money because Ted doesn't want anyone to know that he can't reproduce. So, am I the asshole? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Am I wrong for frightening my nephew and making him traumatized for life? I had a cookout at my place on the 4th of July and my daughter's 13 Switch went missing. I reached out to family members and my wife's sister Kara said that my daughter gave it as a gift to her son Stevie 6 for his upcoming birthday. But when I asked my daughter, she said that wasn't true and she only let him use it so they could all play Mario Kart. So now of course my daughter is upset and I tried to call Kara back, but she's insisting the Switch is now Stevie's. And she's insisting that my daughter is too old to play anyways or will outgrow it soon and it was a gift to Stevie. She also called my daughter an Indian giver. After this, I contacted my uncle who is a police officer. He watches Kara's house and a few of his friends went over and threatened to arrest Stevie and Kara over stolen property. After this, Kara did reluctantly give it back after an incident with the officer that she could have been arrested for. And the officer warned Stevie that next time he steals, they're going to jail. Am I wrong for frightening my nephew and making him traumatized for life? Kara reluctantly gave it back after an incident with the officer that she could have been arrested for. The officer warned Stevie that next time he steals, both him and his mom will go to jail and they let my sister-in-law go without incident. Now sister-in-law is saying that Stevie has been crying non-stop and having issues sleeping because he doesn't want to go to jail. And of course she's blaming me and my family for traumatizing her son. I won't lie, my response might have been heartless because it was, I guess he'll never steal again, and Kara thinks he'll be traumatized for life, making a big deal over a stupid game. Top comment says, your sister-in-law got caught stealing and is trying to deflect by telling you her son is traumatized. She thought you just backed down and let her steal from your daughter, so no, not wrong. But then the response to this comment says, so you think the 6-year-old is secretly doing just fine after an honest-to-God police officer came to his house and said he was taking them to jail? What do you guys think?
Am I the arsehole for laughing at my pregnant sister-in-law? So yesterday, me and some family had dinner at my dad's house. So my sister-in-law, we'll call her Amy, is 3 months pregnant. And no tea, no shade or anything, but you really can't even tell that she's pregnant. And whilst we were eating, Amy asked my brother to go and get her a Dr. Pepper. My brother's 14, by the way. He 100% would have gone and got her one, but the drinks fridge, which has all the good drinks, is a bit of a trek away. And we were eating dinner, so he wasn't going to go. So he politely said no, but he said that there was sweet tea in the kitchen fridge though. And I kid you not, Amy stands up and says, I demand you get me my drink. Now, as you can probably tell, I thought that she was having a bit of a giggle. There's absolutely no way anyone is saying that seriously. I started howling with laughter, which made my brothers start laughing, and that apparently pissed Amy off, so she grabbed her stuff and she left. So that was last night. But all of today, I've been getting texts from Amy and my brother who was also laughing at the time, might I add, saying that I am a little rat for laughing at a pregnant woman and that I clearly must have no shame. The insults then turned to my little brother, who they then called a lazy bastard for not going and getting Amy's drink for her. My dad has also said that he's on their side because he thinks we were really rude for laughing at Amy. However, we do have a little update, so let me know if you want part 2.
Am I wrong for not adopting my dying best friend's dog and buying a puppy from a breeder instead? My best friend is dying of cancer. He could pass away any moment. Today I was visiting and showed him a picture of the German Shepherd puppy I just put a security deposit on. It will be ready to take home in 4 weeks. I've always wanted a German Shepherd puppy, so I was excited to show him the pictures, and I thought maybe the pictures would bring him at least a moment of joy, even if the moment was fleeting. But instead of sharing my excitement, things became awkward. After a few minutes of awkwardness, I asked him what was wrong. I was blindsided by his response. He said that his cousin, who was supposed to take his 2-year-old pug named Horace, could no longer take him, and I could save a lot of money by taking his dog. I looked over at Horace and he looked back at me. Well, he tried to look at me, but he's got one wandering eye that pretty much is always looking towards the ceiling. I could feel his glare with his good eye though. Horace is not a good dog. This is not me being an asshole. This is simply me knowing Horace. He's a little shit, and on top of that, he shits in the house and he tears stuff up. He's always yapping. He's always wanting something. He doesn't even know what he wants. He literally just wants to want something non-stop. He was never properly trained. Overall, I'm not a big fan of the pug dog breed. Their faces look like it's been hit with a shovel. They are always gasping for air with their eyes bulged out as if they are stranded without a space helmet in the Martian atmosphere. I told my friend, no thank you, but I will try to help him find a good home. Really? He says, are you kidding me? You've known Horace since he was a puppy. I know. That's why I don't want him. He's just not a good dog. Wow, you're such an asshole, my friend says. So, am I?
Was I wrong for taking my husband off the joint account? Disclaimer, this is not my story. I will list a source in the caption of this video. My husband and I have our own personal savings and checking accounts that we use for our personal purchases, like lunches and dinners out, clothes. Then we have a joint account that we both contribute to equally for household expenses, like the mortgage, car insurance, utility bills. We each have a card tied to this joint account that we use for household repairs and maintenance. We agreed that if we needed to use the funds in the joint account for personal purchases, that it would only be for an emergency, and that we would put everything that we took out back with our next check. Last month, I noticed that my husband has been using the joint account for eating out while he was at work and not putting anything back that he spent. I asked him about it, and he told me that his card for his personal checking account was lost, but that the bank was sending him a new one and that he would put everything back that he used. I agreed and said that was fine. Just take what you needed. 2 weeks ago, I noticed that money was still going out of the joint account for lunches at work and not being put back into the account. So I confronted him and asked him about his replacement card and when he was going to put the money back that he had used. He told me that he had the card, but he just forgot. I told him that was not a good enough excuse and that he needed to put back what he spent because it wasn't fair. He told me that it was his money too, and he can use it how he wants. He said I was being controlling and demanding. I told him that he had 1 week to put the money back into the joint account, or I was going to go to the bank and have him removed. And when bills were due, he could pay me with a check or do a wire transfer into the account because I could no longer trust him. I told him that we both agreed that the joint account was not to be used for personal purchases and that buying lunch for him and his coworkers is a personal expense that should be coming from his personal account. It has now been 1 week since that conversation, and he has not put back what he has taken. So I called the bank and removed him from the account and canceled his card. He just called me up yelling because he went to order pizza and his card was declined. I told him that I said I was going to take him off the account for not repaying what he took, and I did. He is now saying I have embarrassed him in front of his coworkers and that I am being financially controlling. He said that since he makes more than I do, he should be able to spend whatever he wants, however he wants. I told him that that was fine. He just won't have access to the money that I contribute from my smaller paycheck because I would prefer to stand by our original agreement. So, my wife is pregnant with somebody else's baby. Disclaimer, this is not my story. This is an anonymous submission. I, 28 male, have been married to my wife, 26 female, for 3 years, together for 5. My wife is currently pregnant with our first child. I've been keeping a massive secret from her, and it's starting to weigh on my conscience. When I was 21, I had a motorcycle accident that caused damage to my testicular tissue that halted sperm production. I was tested for 2 years after the accident, and all test results came back with a sperm count of less than 1. With that came my sterile diagnosis. I am an only child, as were my parents. My parents had passed away a few days before my accident, so there's no family on my side. Our first year of dating, my wife never really brought up kids. When I asked her if she saw herself having any, she would brush me off and tell me that she was too young to really see herself as a mom. Or she felt like she didn't really like kids, so picturing herself as a mom was laughable. I know it was dumb of me to have not brought up my sterile diagnosis, but I figured we were on the same page. Fast forward to about a year ago, my wife suddenly became obsessed with the idea of being a mom. I really blame the mom influencers on TikTok. She even started a Pinterest board on how she wanted the nursery to look. Even thought about how we could rearrange furniture in our room to make space for a crib. Again, I know it was absolutely stupid to not mention my sterile diagnosis, but I couldn't bear to think about how crushed she would be. After 3 months of trying, she went to see a doctor and all of her results came back normal, and she was told it can take most couples a year to conceive. But she suggested we have me tested to alleviate any concerns we may have. I'll admit, this could have been the perfect time to come clean. But is that what I did? No, that's not what happened. Instead, I ended up finding groups on FB that donated sperm to couples who were having trouble conceiving. I was able to find a few guys that had similar features as me. After signing their donor contracts and a small shipping fee, I received my samples. During her fertile window, I would rub them on a toy when we were intimate. A month later, she was pregnant. She was ecstatic. Even before she surprised me, I knew. She was so giddy and couldn't hide her excitement. She's now a few days away from giving birth, and as fucked up as it sounds, I know I would do it all over again. And I probably will have to in a few years when she's ready to have another baby. I already reached out to the donor who was successful for another sample, and I should receive it in a few months, once the holidays are over. To cover my tracks, we may have another one sooner than expected. For now, I had to tell someone to clear my conscience.
Am I wrong for ordering my coffee in a takeaway cup but drinking it in the cafe? So I went out with my friends to a coffee shop after lunch and ordered coffees for the group. I got mine in a takeaway cup since I'm always the slowest to finish drinking, and also got a cake that I said I'd eat in for. When the waitress came over and gave me the coffee in the takeaway cup, a friend of mine in the group told me off. Apparently it's rude to order coffee in a takeaway cup and drink it in the establishment, and that it's ruining the vibe for everyone else. She also said that her parents own a cafe, and it's a common understanding that asking for a coffee in a takeaway cup while eating in is a huge faux pas. The thing is, I've always done this and no one has ever told me off. And all the cafes have been more than okay with it. Have I been wrong the whole time without knowing? I'm gonna say honestly, you guys, I see nothing wrong with it. Even if you want to eat in and you get a to-go because it's just more convenient, I really struggle to see the issue. The top comment also says not wrong, and I don't think most people care.
My fiancé admitted she would not have agreed to marry me if I was poor. Disclaimer, this is not my story. I will list the source in the caption of this video. This happened last night. I, 28 now, I'm at work right now, and I'm a little shaken up, so I decided to ask for some outside opinions. I started a company after college in IT consulting. We specialize in privacy compliance and regulations, so when from GDPR came into force around 2018, the company grew substantially. That was also around the time I met my now fiance. When I asked her out, she did not know what I do for work or how much money I earn, and only saw the real skill of it after we started dating. After 4 years of dating, I asked her to marry me 2 months ago and she agreed. Our families are really close and have already been joking about us getting married a few months into our relationship. I would describe our relationship as pretty much perfect. We have the occasional disagreement, but we never get loud or irrationally angry. In 4 years, we've never had a fight that wasn't resolved by the end of the day. I do everything I can to make sure she is happy. I buy her flowers, take her out on dates, vacations, and do stuff for her whenever I can. She is a kind and funny person. She is always there for me when I'm feeling down or burnt out, and has been my best friend for the last 4 years. I have to admit, I do work a lot, but I always try to learn about her day or how she's feeling when I got home. She has a teaching degree, but stopped working about a year ago to focus on taking care of her dad who has cancer. She was hinting at quitting for a while, so I offered to carry her expenses. This is not a financial issue for me at all. And at the time, I really did not think about it because I thought this was a great way for her to spend time with her dad before he passes. I assumed that she would go back to work sometime after that. Last night we were at dinner with some of her friends and their partners. I did not drink because it was Sunday and I had to work today. She and her friends did not mind, so they got pretty drunk. Eventually a topic came up where one of her friends was there and recently got dumped by her longtime boyfriend. Her friend jokingly said my fiancé had it figured out. Just find a rich guy and chill for the rest of your life. My fiancé responded with, exactly, just find a reason to stay home for a while and never get back to work. And when he's got a problem with it, just take half his stuff. I know she was probably just joking here, but still obviously that bothered me. I confronted her on it on the way home and she ended up admitting that while she does love me, she would not have married me if I did not have financial security. I asked her if she would marry me if I earned what she does and she said no. We had a big fight about this morning. She is saying that I should not have confronted her while she was drunk. Also, she claims that there is nothing wrong with a woman choosing a man based on his salary, as she is only looking out for herself and her future children. She argued that guys tend to go for looks and women accept that too. I understand her point, but I'm a little heartbroken. I would absolutely do anything for her, and I don't care if she were poor, sick, or whatever. The fact that her loyalty to me is based on the advantages of dating me rather than me as a person and partner makes me rethink if she is the one I should marry. She already agreed to a prenup months ago, so I do think the whole take half his stuff thing was just a joke. I'm just not sure how to move forward from all of this. It still really bothers me. Is it really that common for women to focus on money?
Am I wrong for telling my sister-in-law that she didn't actually run a marathon? So I've been a runner for as long as I can remember, and I absolutely love it. I want running to continue growing as a competitive activity and also a just for fun hobby. I also encourage newcomers to running, but recently I encountered a situation where I felt gatekeeping was necessary. Basically, my sister-in-law got into running last year and she absolutely fell in love with it. And I decided I could connect with her on this topic. I wanted to hear about her runs, her progress, and maybe offer guidance if she wanted it. So at a family gathering, I asked her about her runs, and after a bit of conversation, she mentioned she ran a marathon. I was quite surprised she ran a marathon after only getting into running a year ago. That is amazing, and what incredible dedication and drive, I thought to myself. I was about to praise her for this incredible accomplishment, but then she started to explain this marathon in detail. And basically, it was a virtual marathon. Am I wrong for telling my sister-in-law that she didn't actually run a marathon? It was a virtual marathon that she started late last year and apparently completed this year. Basically, it was an app-based event where you tally up your running distances until you reach 26.2 miles. I chuckled slightly and told her that's great she totaled that many miles in that time frame, but it doesn't count as a marathon. I explained that marathons have time limits for completion, which is usually 6 to 8 hours, and if they didn't, I could claim multiple ultra marathons. It's disingenuous and, in my opinion, undermines those who have actually ran a marathon. She obviously didn't take this well and called me an asshole, a bully, and an elitist, and a few other things. I did apologize for upsetting her, but I stand by what I said. She didn't run a marathon. I didn't continue pressing the subject, but she wouldn't speak to me for the rest of the gathering, and my wife does agree with me. But their mother said I should have just let her believe it. Am I wrong?
My sister ruined my relationship, so I watched her world fall apart. Story time! So, my sister hates me. We'll call her Amy, and she is the golden child of our family. She was one of those kids that was literally good at everything. Dancing, singing, baking, acting, you name it. She was ace in it. And she loved to rub it in my face that she was always better than me. She was constantly 2 steps ahead of me. She used to tell me how everyone loved her more than they loved me. Over the years, I just became her validation punching bag. She just thinks her life is this huge ass survival game where she's the star player. And everyone around her are just her little sidekicks in the game. If I got a B and she got an A, it was the perfect opportunity for her to show how much better she was than me. Even marrying the only good guy in the village was an absolute trophy moment for her, and he was my first love. I'd always dreamed of us both getting away from this shithole and moving away to Spain together. As Amy realised that I really liked Jane, she wanted him at whatever cost, and she ultimately got him. He fell in love with her the same way all of my family did. So unfortunately, Jake passed away. Amy was obviously heartbroken, but so was I too. But I had to put up this consoling front for my sister. And being completely honest, seeing how heartbroken she was over Jake's death made us grow closer together. To make sure she wasn't alone, I invited her to live with me and my boyfriend Mike for a few days. Mike and I had been with each other for about 2 years at this point. So Mike and I had just arranged a Valentine's trip to Hawaii together, and I really didn't want to leave Amy on her own since she was grieving so much. I convinced Mike to let Amy tag along on our Hawaii trip. But 4 days before the trip, I came home early. I saw Mike and Amy in my bed together. And instead of giving me an explanation as to what the hell was going on, Mike broke up with me there and then. And I could just see the smirk on Amy's face in that moment. And 2 days later, I saw on Mike's Facebook that they were in a relationship together. And in her eyes, she was top of the leaderboard again. Her and Mike went on that Valentine's trip to Hawaii together. So I decided to make a little trip of my own. So remember when I said I wanted to move to Spain with Jake? So I decided to go on a road trip to Spain. I am not alone. I did a little stop at Amy's house before I left. On this trip, I have the company of my first love sitting in the passenger seat next to me. For the first time in my life, I was at the top of the leaderboard. Taking your sister's dead husband has to top hooking up with your sister's boyfriend, right?
My wife is destroying my relationship with my son. Since my son was a small child, my wife's parenting philosophy has been that mothers should only provide comfort while fathers are fully responsible for discipline. This has meant that anytime my son did something wrong, I would always be left to explain why it was wrong and implement a punishment. After I would ground him or reprimand him, my wife would always rush over to him and tell him how much she loves him, etc. This has been a source of tension between us for a long time, and I've tried to sometimes swap roles and be the parent who provides comfort. In these instances, usually it was my wife that would discover he did something wrong and would ask me to reprimand him. I would tell her to, but she simply would not, and eventually I would relent. This all came to a head a few days ago. My wife, 46 female, and I, 49 male, had to leave town for 2 days to visit her aunt, 78 female, who has been ill. We left my son, a Ford Mustang, at home. My son, 17 male, has driven the car but only under supervision, and isn't allowed to drive it if I'm not around. After we came back and arrived home, I went into the bathroom and my son told my wife that he had taken the car out with his friends and caused some damage while we were out of town. When I came out, my wife told me what had happened, and when I asked my son about it, he apologized and then added that the damage was very light. I felt very betrayed and went to check the car. It had a bent wheel and damage to the bumper and headlight, much more severe than I expected. I went back inside the house and yelled at my son, expressing how he lied about the damage and called him an idiot as the damage clearly indicated he had been driving recklessly, endangering himself and others. In anger, I said, 1. That my son was the least intelligent member of his friend group and that they took advantage of that. 2. That he was basically a toddler and I would start having to hide items from him so he doesn't break them. 3. He would be paying for the damages. My son apologized again and didn't say much the rest of the day. She suggested I talk to him more gently before bed so that he doesn't resent me. I replied that I've already said everything I wanted to say and that if she wants to talk to him, she can. She then expressed that my reaction has been disproportionate and how items can be fixed, and lastly how boys will be boys. Exhausted from the day, I went to bed without a real response to this. The next day after my son came from school and I sat him down for a talk, I told him that I did not think he was an idiot, but reiterated that his actions that day were dumb. I then asked him to tell me what exactly happened, and I would remain silent the entire time he narrates. Later, my wife told me that she thinks it's too harsh for our son to pay for the car's repairs. She said it was my decision to buy an expensive car that would require expensive repairs, and again, how boys will be boys. She then mentioned that while she does acknowledge what our son did was dumb, but said that it is perfectly normal for a kid his age to want to impress his friends. I have no patience for the boys will be boys mentality that she has repeatedly brought up, and told her that it was not a valid excuse for anything, and it is irresponsible for her to want our son, who is soon going to be going to university in another city, to have this way of thinking. To me, it is dangerous. She told me that I'm overreacting and have blown this whole thing out of proportion. She also mentioned that we can't micromanage him, and again that boys do stuff that we can't keep track of every little thing he does. I told her even if we can't track every little thing he does, he'll be held accountable either by us or by the law. She became quite upset now, saying that I'm being too controlling and that I'm using fear tactics. She also said clearly I was unable to accept my son living a life he could enjoy, and how I value the opinion of strangers more than hers and our son's ability to enjoy life. I told her that she's delusional and her way of thinking will get our son in trouble. We have not spoken since then. 100% Dad, I'm on your side. That is going to get your son in a lot of shit. I want to just have fun. I want to have fun. Consequences to my actions? What? Like, you have to teach him that before the world does.
Am I the asshole for being too close to my ex-husband? 6 years ago, I got divorced from my now ex-husband. There was no drama that led to this. We simply realized we were no longer happy or in love, and it would have been a clean break had it not been for the fact that we have a daughter who is now 11. Neither of us wanted to lose full custody or miss important moments in her life. She is the most important person in both of our lives, and we debated on trying to make it work just for her, but realized that would only lead the three of us to become miserable, so we entered an arrangement that many would view as unconventional. When we sold our house, we used the money to buy 2 semi-detached houses that were joined and had a door installed between them. The construction company tried to warn us against this as it would affect the resale value, but neither of us had any intention to sell, so we had them go ahead with it. We also had them take down the fence between both of our backyards so our daughter would have an even extra large backyard to play in. We have an agreement regarding the door. It is strictly for our daughter's use, and neither of us can use it barring any emergencies for a fire, medical, or something being wrong with our daughter. And won't lie, it was awkward at first, but for her sake we made it work and even regained a lot of the friendship we had lost, though of course it was strictly platonic now. Last year my ex-husband married his girlfriend of 3 years, a lovely woman who I'm actually friends with. All in all, it's an arrangement everyone is content with except for my boyfriend, who I'd started dating 2 years ago. I understood the arrangement entering into the relationship, and while he said it was a bit weird, he never protested and all seemed well. Things are getting more serious and we've been discussing discussing moving in together. He's made it clear he wants me to move as he doesn't want to live next door to my ex-husband. I understood that, but I told him that wouldn't be happening as my daughter had to come first and our arrangement gave her a stable upbringing. He got upset with me and asked me how he was supposed to be a father to my daughter when she already had a dad who was literally a wall away. I told him gently but firmly that he wasn't her father and she already had one, and even his father's wife didn't try to be a mom. He told me if I loved him, I'd move for him, and despite me telling him that I do love him, he isn't listening. So, am I the asshole? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. Would I be the asshole if I didn't give back the inheritance my ex-fiance left me to his family? My ex-fiance passed away 2 months ago. A couple days ago, I found out he left all of his fortune to me. His family is now very angry with me. I'm not sure if I have any obligations to return the money to his family. I met him 15 years ago. He was 35 and I was 28. He was a very shy and awkward kind of guy. His mother, his sister, and his sister's children were his world. When he turned 30, he had already told his family that he had given up hope in meeting his partner and that he promised he was dedicating his life to his sister and her children. He was starting up a promising business and he was going to take care of his nephews. When we met, it was love at first sight. He's the love of my life. His mother and sisters hated me from the get-go. Our personalities clashed, yes, but the main reason was because they thought he had broken his promise should he start a family. We moved in, we got engaged and set the date, but unfortunately we broke up. And I want to say it was 99% because of his family's interference and him not siding with me. We broke up after 12 years together. During that time we were together, my ex-fiance's business took off and he became very wealthy. When we broke up, he left me our apartment that he bought. That didn't sit well with his mother, who harassed me to the point of sending men I didn't know to wait outside of the building to threaten me. I wasn't having any of it. I gave him back the keys and moved to my hometown. Now he left me all of his fortune. We never really stopped loving each other, and he regretted not protecting me, but it was too late to reconcile. I just wanted to run from that horrible family. Now his sister is saying that money is hers and her son's. I don't know, but I feel if he wanted to give it to them, he wouldn't have put me in his will. From what I understood from his solicitor, he had no contact with his family after our breakup. My best friends think I would be the asshole if I kept the money.
Let's try to
would I be
clean
the
this
asshole if I
crusty
didn't give back
waffle
the
iron.
inheritance? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Am I the asshole for
Take a
telling my wife
dishwasher
I can't
tablet.
trust her after she didn't text me
Just
about
kidding.
towels? For context, me and my wife are in our 30s.
A lot of you
I
told
had a
me to
stroke
buy a
last year
Jax.
and had aphasia as a side effect and passes normal to
It
most
smells
people.
really
Since the
good.
stroke, our communication
Scrub,
is worse.
scrub, scrub.
Sometimes when I talk to her, she says I'm mean and cries, but I have no idea why. Well, today I took my kids to swim class, but when I got there, I realized I forgot towels. I texted my wife and she offered to go home and get towels and bring them to me. I thanked her, got the kids in the pool, then
Inside
called her,
done.
but she said she was still at work because someone
Time
was
for the
blocking her in.
outside.
She said her coworkers were getting her towels and she'd be there as soon as possible.
Ups.
Am I the asshole
I
for telling
scratched
my
the
wife I
paint
can't
off.
trust her after she
Back
didn't
to
text
scrub
me about
daddy.
towels? I didn't hear from her for 15 minutes and thought about asking the front for towels, but didn't know if she was coming. She brought the towels, we talked, and she left, and I didn't say much because I was upset. When she got home, she offered to finish dinner and put down the kids, and I said okay. I also asked if it was okay to talk and told her I feel like I can't trust her. Because when I ask her to do something, she won't update me if there are any unforeseen circumstances. She said she didn't blame me, but it hurt her feelings that I would complain when she worked so hard to get the towels. I told her that I thanked her immediately, and she also said something sarcastic like, "And you're welcome for coming home and taking the kids." And I said, "Don't do me any favors." Am I the asshole for going off on my wife for commenting about our 3-week-old daughter's looks? My daughter, our second child, is 3 weeks old. Pre-pregnancy, my wife was diagnosed with general anxiety disorder and depression. And now, after birthing our baby girl, she's experiencing postpartum. Our first child, our son, looks so much like my wife, and she's a looker, so my son is so cute. Our daughter, on the other hand, looks a bit more like me. Her hairline kind of has a widow's peak, her lips are relatively thin, and her nose is a little larger. Well, nearly every day, my wife has made comments to our baby girl about how she's sad that she got daddy's features. Am I the asshole for going off on my wife for commenting about our 3-week-old daughter's looks? Here are just some things she said to our baby girl. "Don't worry, I'll get you a nose job as soon as you're old enough. My family is beautiful and all the women are timeless, and your dad's family, not so much. And your brother has a beautiful pouty lip and you got stuck with those pencil lips." I went off on her and said I don't care if she can't understand, I understand, and so can our son. She's 3 weeks old and perfect and noble, and she needs to stop projecting. Her own mom used to make comments about her appearance as well, so why would she do it? Am I wrong? Am I the asshole for kicking my son's girlfriend out of our house? My husband, 58 male, and I, 56 female, recently met my son's 24 male girlfriend for the first time. He's crazy about her, and apparently they've been dating for a year. Everything that he shared with us about her seems great, and I'm honestly just glad that he's happy. So last weekend, he brought her over for dinner, and we've been anticipating meeting her. They ring the doorbell, open the door, and she looks exactly like her pictures, which is a good start. My son is grinning ear to ear, another good start. We invite them in, and she accepts my hug and a firm handshake from my husband. Then she opens her mouth and says, "I'm the one your son puts his you-know-what in." Ugh! Am I the asshole for kicking my son's girlfriend out of our house? I was appalled but expected my husband to laugh. Maybe I'm reserved, but of all things she could have shared about my son, she said that? One look at my face and my husband knew how much I disapproved. Maybe I let my expectations get too high and it's unfair to have them, but I reiterate, of all things to say. At first my son was amused until he realized my reaction. I felt like he sold me the full package and everything he'd always wanted in a girlfriend. I was too disturbed by the visual and it translated into anger. I told her to get out and my son asked for another chance, but I was too fed up and uncomfortable. Even my husband, who enjoys raunchy jokes, wouldn't let up.
Today, my wife met my girlfriend. I, 32 male, am a widow. My wife passed away from pancreatic cancer 5 years ago. She was forced to leave behind our 2 kids, R, 10 male, and H, 7 male. My wife was the absolute light of my life. We were high school sweethearts, went to the same college, and got married after graduation. We were inseparable. Every day, I fell more in love with her. It was like my heart was living outside my body. When she passed, the amount of pain I was in was indescribable. I prayed to go to sleep and not wake up just so I could see her one last time. I contemplated meeting her, but every time I was ready, my kids would look at me. They had her face, her personality, her DNA. I couldn't leave them. They were all I had left of her. It took years before I was able to function normally again. I even quit my job and lived off of savings from her life insurance for about a year. I was half the dad I used to be and only a fraction of my former self. 2 years after her passing, I decided enough was enough and I kicked myself into gear. I found a job in a different city, closer to my parents. I packed my kids up and I moved. Life was hard, but I kept chugging along and eventually I found some joy. A year after moving, I took a business trip to New York where I met my current girlfriend, Elle. While I acknowledged there was chemistry, I told her I was already married and she understood. However, a few months later, I had to go back to New York where we met up again. I let my guard down for the first time around her. Before I knew it, she was putting in a transfer from my home branch and moving to my city. I fell in love with her and asked her out a year ago next month. My kids adore her, and though she reminded them she will never take their mom's place, they love calling her Mama Elle. Today was the anniversary of my wife's passing, an extremely hard day for all of us. This morning, I walked into the living room to find Elle and my kids waiting for me. The kids were dressed in their church clothes with goofy smiles on their faces and bouquets in hand. Apparently, Elle came up with the idea of a picnic at my wife's grave. An idea that the boys loved as they enjoy going to see their mom. While I was sleeping, they prepared food and flowers, then insisted on wearing their best clothes. I'll admit that I cried at the sight of them. I don't know how I got this lucky twice in a row. I wanted my wife to meet this amazing woman, so I asked Elle to come along, and she did. The day that I dread every year turned out to be a humbling reminder of the reason why I stayed on this planet. To my lovely wife, you can never be replaced, but she is good to me and she takes care of our kids like you would. Thank you for sending her to me.
Stop! I'm gonna cry! I gotta end the video! I'm gonna cry!
I told my fiance I don't really want to marry her anymore. My 26 male fiance, Sarah, 24 female, and I are set to get married in 3 months. We were visiting a botanical garden yesterday when Sarah pointed out a flower called the Arabian jasmine, a little white flower with a nice scent. She said that her cousin Stephanie had those at her wedding. I asked if it was the same Stephanie that would be in attendance with her husband at our wedding, and she said it was. Sarah and Stephanie are apparently pretty close, and she started telling me about Stephanie and her husband. At one point, she told me that Stephanie had actually cheated on her husband twice before they got married, and that the second time was a couple of months before the actual wedding. Her husband never found out. I asked her why she never told Stephanie's husband about what happened, and she responded by saying it wasn't her circus and wasn't her monkeys, and that it's not a big of a deal anyways since they weren't married at the time. I've been thinking about what she said ever since. I considered cheating the ultimate worst betrayal in a relationship. Clearly my fiance doesn't think so since she said her cousin cheating wasn't that big of a deal since they weren't married. Would this mean that she thinks cheating on me right now wouldn't be that big of a deal since we aren't married yet? As a man, if I got cheated on by my partner, I hope someone who knew would tell me about it. I would heavily judge anyone who knew about it, didn't tell me, let me go on to marry the person that cheated on me, and attend my wedding as if nothing was wrong. Like my fiance did to her cousin's husband. About an hour ago, I texted my fiance, I'm not sure if I can go forward with getting married. Let's talk in person later tonight. She's been blowing up my phone with texts and missed calls ever since. I'm just going to tell her what I've said in this post when I see her.
My best friend told me he's in love with me 2 days before my wedding. Story time. I've been with my fiance for 3 years and we've been engaged for a little over a year. And me and my best friend, we'll call him Steve, have been friends since we were freshmen. So this morning, I woke up to a long ass message from Steve. The message was sent at like 6 a.m. this morning. And this text was him pouring his heart out to me. He said that he'd been in love with me for years and how he wished that I'd have broken it off with my fiance years ago. And that when I broke up with my fiance, I would realise that Steve was actually the man for me. He then asked me to call off my wedding and to run away with him. Steve, that's never gonna happen, babe. It's 2 days before my wedding. And he finished the text by saying, I needed to tell you before it was too late. I literally felt so gross when I received this text. I had never had any feelings for Steve other than just platonic friendship. So I kept drafting responses, but I just could not find the words to say. And at this point, I hadn't even told my fiance yet. I didn't want him worrying about me so close to the wedding because, you know, it's literally in like 2 days. I obviously know that I need to reply, but I just don't know what to say. And what's worse is that he's kind of become my fiance's friend through it all as well. I'm not like, I'm literally so pissed off that a friend has decided to cause me this much distress so close to my wedding. But literally so many times where Steve could have told me that he was in love with me that weren't 2 days, 48 hours before my wedding. Like, babes, what do you want me to do? Cancel the wedding over goddamn text? Okay. So now I have the problem that he's actually invited to the wedding. And I obviously don't want him there because I'm not gonna lie, I just can't trust that he's not gonna pull something. I don't even know if I even want to talk to him ever again, to be honest. But through it all, I'm not gonna lie, the thought of losing my best friend is actually heartbreaking. And then the thought of not having him at the wedding is even worse. I just feel like he's put me in this absolutely impossible situation. And I wish he'd not put me in the position where I'm now obviously responsible for his feelings. I don't want to kick him whilst he's down, but I obviously need to tell him that I'm not going to cancel the wedding and my wedding to my husband is still on. And also, I've just thought this, I'm so annoyed that he's had an alternative motive to our friendship this whole entire time. Like, we've been friends for 10 years. I did actually end up telling my now husband what Steve had said to me, so let me know if you want to hear that. My best friend told me he loved me 2 days before my wedding. Storytime update. So that night, my fiance got home from his brother's and I let him sit down and read the text. As he was reading them, his eyes were getting wider and wider and his expression was getting so angry. So of course, I started apologising like an idiot. But he reassured me that I didn't owe him an apology for anything. We talked for a few hours about it and my fiance actually admitted that he'd always thought that Steve had a bit of a thing for me. But he didn't really mind too much because Steve had always kept it respectful. And he really was respectful, like besides a little side hug when we'd meet, etc. there was literally nothing that ever happened. I even let my husband read through a load of our old texts so he could see that I hadn't been leading him on. I never even vented to Steve whenever me and my fiance would have an argument. I would always go to my mum because I knew better than that. So my fiance asked me what I wanted to do with the whole situation and I said that I knew that I didn't want him at the wedding, so we decided to type up a text. The message was very brief, but it said, Steve, I'm very sad that you took our friendship as something more. The wedding is going to happen and it'd be best if you didn't attend. To be clear, I let my fiance read the text and he is in agreement with me and stands by my decision to uninvite you from the wedding. We wanted to make it clear that it was me that had made the decision to uninvite him so he couldn't turn it around on my fiance. Because knowing him, he'd probably just say that it was my fiance that had forced me to uninvite him. He saw the message, but he left it on read for a few hours. And oh my god, I started to get so anxious about the fact that he wasn't replying. Part of me wanted to block him, but the other part of me just wanted to hear him out. So when Steve finally responded, the text was so long that I had to click on it to read it. It was vile. He called me a liar and said that I'd been leading him on for decades. He said that he hopes my fiance ends up leaving me and that when we want to have children, we end up trouble getting pregnant. But I just kept crying, so my fiance took my phone into the other room and came back after about an hour. I still don't know what happened, but I assume that he must have called it. He told me that Steve was blocked on everything and that the maid of honour and best man were aware of the situation, so if he tried to turn up or anything kicked off, they were going to deal with it. And to be honest, after reading Steve's message, I really wasn't that sad that he wouldn't be attending the wedding anymore. And just for the record, we had the best wedding day. My ex ruined his life and I'm buzzing about it. Story time. So I found out that my ex was having an affair. He told me that he'd found a woman at work and he'd fallen in love with her. He told me that he no longer loved me and that he wanted a divorce. And we had been together since we were in our teens. Bearing in mind, he'd known this woman for 3 months. And we had 3 children together as well. And I desperately fought for our marriage, but he simply just would not stop seeing this woman. This one weekend, he disappeared from Friday afternoon till Sunday night. And that was the final straw, so I was like, see ya, and I threw him out. And he immediately moved in with this other girl. The only excuse he ever gave me was that there was just something about this girl and he deserved to be happy. And that was it. That was the excuse for throwing literally everything away. We ended up finalising the divorce in early 2022. So although I had some very strong feelings towards him, I faked it enough to get some pretty favourable divorce terms from him. Seeing that he was so intent on being with his dream girl super quick that he wasn't really intending on having a long divorce. In the end, I got to keep my house, which was good because I bought this from my grandma. I did have to give him quite a hefty payout though. And throughout all of it, the kids took it really, really hard. My eldest son told him that if he chose this other woman, then he would not have a relationship with his son anymore. But my daughter does have somewhat of a relationship. But their conversations end with my daughter being really upset most of the time. So, about 4 months after the divorce goes through, my ex contacts me. He realised he'd made a horrible mistake and was asking if he could come home. So it turns out this dream woman was actually a really nasty piece of work and a not very nice person at all. So I used this opportunity to tell him exactly what I thought about him as a person. And whilst I was at it, I thought I might as well throw him what he was like as a father and as a partner. I told him that this is his life now. I told him that he no longer had a home at this house and to never even try contacting me ever again. So a few things have happened since that meant he's tried to contact me again. I'm also aware that this is not the right shade, but we'll sort it out. First of all, I met someone. My sister introduced me to someone who she works with who is also divorced. We got on so well and have been seeing each other since last summer. It's quite nice actually because neither of us want to get married again. And secretly, I think he deserves all the pain he's going through in regards to the kids. He destroyed our whole family without so much of an afterthought. Well, too bad, hon. So sad for you. So, he recently ended up telling my daughter that he'd actually broken it up with his dream girl. I found out that the dream girl had nicked all of his money and that money actually turned out to be mine. You know, the money from the divorce settlement? Yeah. Oh, and she also wrote off his car when she was driving drunk, so that's great. And this is all coming from a woman in her 30s. You know, just to remind everyone, coming from a woman who he knew for 3 months and then proceeded to ruin our whole family for. And I act like I feel pretty sorry for him. Inside, I delight that this is the life that he's made for himself. Call me evil or whatever, he brought all of this on himself. So if you're watching this, enjoy your shite 1-bed apartment and your broken down car, hon. Oh, and me and my new partner will think of you when we're on our vacation in Hawaii. I know Hawaii was the place you always wanted to go. Maybe I'll send you a postcard.
I'm literally about to go to a wedding. I'm ready to go, but I checked my DMs and someone messaged me the update to this and I really wanted to get it out there so you guys can see it. Let's get into it. So it has been brought to my attention that my ex-boyfriend came on here to whine to y'all. Please do not feel bad for him because that man quite literally left out so many things in his post to try to make me seem like the bad guy. He wants to talk about our relationship to a bunch of strangers. Fine, let's do it. Yes, Mike was right about one thing. The relationship has been strained because of bills and finding well-paying jobs. That's literally because he has refused to work since 2020 when the virus started initially. We have been living off my CNA paycheck and the money my dad inherited to me. The only thing this man freaking did was stay in our guest room to play video games and live stream to his 10 viewers on Twitch and make absolutely no money. Not only did he have the audacity to make zero money, but he got into $8,900 in online gambling debt. Then I gave him the money to pay it off, like the idiot I am. So yes, I was heavily irritated with him given I was in nursing school and working at the same time. That's not even the icing on the cake that he conveniently left out. I was supposed to be expecting our first child this summer and I unfortunately miscarried. Instead of comforting me like a decent human being, he degraded me, blamed me for overworking myself, and said I caused the miscarriage myself. He randomly refused to sleep in the same bed as me until I later found out that he didn't find me attractive anymore and that he was disgusted by my body. I was depressed for months leading up to this and cried myself to sleep because I felt like I wasn't even good enough and developed an eating disorder. I guess he felt like verbally abusing me wasn't good enough, but started having an affair with my best friend since kindergarten. He was so stupid to leave his iPhone messages and iCloud sync to his iPad, so I knew everything he was saying about me. I was depressed for 3 weeks before cheating on him and hoping it was just a bad dream that a boy that was my first love and everything could hurt and hate me so much. So yes, last weekend when he said he was going out of town to see his dad, I knew he was lying and was going to actually spend the weekend with my best friend. So yes, I called his brother over to help install something, and his brother has always flirted with me, and I knew Mike was always jealous of his brother. It's quite pathetic when you think about it. His brother is on track to be a doctor and had multiple full-ride scholarships to multiple schools and is everyone's obvious choice between them because he's actually a decent person. So yes, I screwed his brother all weekend and it was the best I felt in a long time. Is that morally wrong? Probably, but I needed to do it for my own sanity and to burn that bridge with our relationship so I can be done completely. The rest is directly to Mike since he blocked me. You don't get to play the victim online and act like you weren't actively trying to break me for these past 3 years. You made me feel worthless and that I wasn't good enough to get anyone else besides you. I hate that I wasted so much time on you, but I now realize I wasn't the problem, it was you. I hope you get help because you actually are a narcissist and I pray for any other girl that comes in contact with you. Besides Annie, because you guys deserve each other. P.S. Give me back my damn dishes, pots, and knives. You know your ass didn't buy them, let alone use it. I gotta go. Bye. My 59 female, son 34 male, is the one responsible for my granddaughter's 1 female death. I have no idea how to deal with this and move on with my family. I have 2 kids. My daughter's daughter passed due to my son's stupidity. My son Andrew married Alexis 8 years ago, and I by no means am a monstrum. Never have been. But Alexis is a nightmare. She's an anti-science, pro-Facebook science. She's awfully entitled and is thinking all their savings is an LMN scheme. And as such, they decided not to vaccinate their kids. They have a 10-year-old son and 6-year-old daughter. A month ago, my daughter Jenny came over with her baby to pick up some of her old things. She decided to stay for coffee and cake. Andrew and Alexis moved right across from us after the lockdown lifted. My husband and I assumed it was because they were planning on using us as free childcare. Anyway, as Jenny was over, Alexis rang the doorbell. Before I could even say hello, her kids came spilling in. They're nice kids, somewhat bratty, but they do have a heart of gold. I love them so much. But because of them not being vaccinated, I don't like having them around the same time as babies. I tried to keep things calm, but the kids had run upstairs to where Jenny's baby was sleeping and were cuddling with her. I managed to get them to come down, but they had been with the baby for a few minutes. Fast forward a few days. Jenny calls me in tears telling me her and her fiancé are in the hospital because their baby had a high fever and couldn't breathe properly. My husband and I hurried there. Then we spent the most excruciating 17 hours in the hospital that sadly ended with my granddaughter passing away. She had apparently caught whooping cough and her little lungs couldn't handle it. My daughter is absolutely destroyed. I had a stinging suspicion and called my son. I asked him if his kids had been sick. He said they had a nasty cough and a little fever, but that they had managed. I don't know what happened, but I lost it. I just started breathing heavy and crying hard and couldn't say much more but to say that his niece died because of him. He had been calling me and his sister, and we haven't picked up. He has come over multiple times and I have not opened. Tried to calm down and tell myself that it's probable that she caught it from someone else. Only that my daughter hadn't taken out my granddaughter to places with kids for almost a month. Maybe at a supermarket or in a walk, but my husband pointed out that it was likelier she caught it through close contact, and it is possible to catch it outside, but not as likely. I feel so mad, so angry, I don't know what to do. I love my other grandkids, and I feel like they're going to suffer with them as parents. How do we go forward? Jenny's never going to forgive Andrew, and I don't know if I can either.
Storytime about why you just can't bring some friends around your boyfriend. So a little background information, I was 17 and a junior in high school, and I had been best friends with this one girl who we're gonna call Lily for about 2 years. Now Lily and I weren't your ordinary best friends. We were the ones that would party together, but we would never talk about anything serious. And when I mean serious things, I mean like a secret that you don't want anybody to know. Just for a little example, the one time I told her that I thought I was pregnant, and clearly she knew that I was super scared, and I told her I don't want anybody to know, please don't say anything. In about 30 minutes, I had like 20 people asking me if I was pregnant, and then somehow my parents found out. She's also the best friend that you keep away from any guy that you like. Well, I have been dating this guy who we're gonna call Jared for 6 months. And obviously now that I have a boyfriend, I've stopped hanging out with her as much. But my whole thing is she would never give me a heads up on plans. She would literally just text me and be like, hey, we're going out tonight. And I would text her back and I would be like, sorry, I can't. I already have plans with Jared. So this made her really upset. So like I said, she was getting very upset with the fact that she would ask me to make plans last minute and I would tell her that I'm busy with my boyfriend. And this went on throughout Jared and I's whole relationship. And it wasn't like I would ignore her. I would still hang out with her. I just wouldn't go and party and stuff like that because I respected my relationship. She would also always ask me to not bring my boyfriend to these parties, and that's another reason why I wouldn't go. So the one night she's like, listen, come out with me. You can bring your boyfriend. It won't be a problem, which was a shocker. So I was a little bit skeptical, but I said, okay. So we go to this party, and usually whenever I'm with Lily, I get really messed up, but I was trying to pace myself this night. And then she's like, come on, you don't mind if she gets drunk, right, Jared? Of course, him wanting me to have fun. He said no, he doesn't mind. She calls us an Uber, and then she asked for my boyfriend's Snapchat just so that way she could check up on us because I was too drunk. The entire ride home, Lily is blowing up Jared's phone, and we just think that she's trying to check on us.
No. Instead, when we got home, he opened his phone, and it was actually Lily sending him a bunch of naked pictures.
Am I the asshole for telling my daughter if she doesn't like living with her sister, she can move out? I have 2 daughters, Chloe, 23 female, and Lorna, 19 female. My husband and I are both fortunate enough to own 2 properties. We own our primary home where we live in our rural hometown and a small 2-bedroom apartment in the city that's around a 3-hour drive away. We purchased the apartment around 5 years ago with the original intention of using it to have spontaneous weekends away. However, 2 years ago, Chloe got accepted into a university that was in that city. We decided to let Chloe stay in the apartment and we'd pay all the utilities. Chloe is still staying in the apartment and has another 2 years left of her degree. This year, Lorna got accepted into the same university and she asked us if she could stay in the apartment with Chloe. We didn't see why not and informed Chloe that her sister was going to be joining her. Chloe was really angry and said that we should have asked her if it was okay. And she said that she needs her own space. We reminded Chloe that they'll be able to have their own bedrooms and that it's only a temporary arrangement until she graduates and finds a job. Chloe told us that that's not the point. She said that she already uses a spare bedroom in her study room and that she doesn't want to live with Lorna. She said that Lorna is annoying and that she likes living on her own. My husband reminded Chloe that she's staying in the apartment for free and that Lorna has just as much right to be there as she does and that they can figure out on their own how to not get on each other's nerves. Am I the asshole for telling my daughter if she doesn't like living with her sister, she can move out? Lorna moved in at the start of the semester around 2 months ago. At first, it seemed to be going well. I regularly checked up on both Chloe and Lorna and they didn't mention any problems. Last week, Chloe called me and demanded that I kick Lorna out. She said that she can't stand living with Lorna anymore and that she needs to have her own place. I asked Chloe what was going on and she described very petty problems, such as Lorna's room being messy, not having a study room, and not being able to play the TV loud at nights, etc. I told Chloe that that's the reality of living with other people and that she needs to learn to compromise, and that we weren't kicking Lorna out. Chloe protested and said that she was living there first and implied that Lorna should live in the dorms because she's younger. She kept trying to talk over me and shouting into the phone when I was trying to explain to her that that would be unreasonable. I eventually lost my temper and told Chloe that if she doesn't like it, she can move out and pay rent and bills elsewhere. Chloe started crying and said that I should be more understanding, then hung up the phone. My husband thinks that Chloe is just acting like a brat and that we shouldn't entertain it, and that my response was fine. But Chloe is upset with my texts and calls and is clearly upset by my comment. So I'm wondering, am I the asshole for telling my daughter if she doesn't like living with her sister, she can move out? Let me know your thoughts in the comments.
Am I the asshole for not warning my hookup about the snake room? I have a ball python. She's 4.5 feet long, very lazy and chill, and mostly lays under her heat lamp in her tank. When I bought the house, I let her have the run of the room because I have extra space, and I also sealed everything and keep the lid off so she can roam freely. And I also made a big cat tree for snakes. And I have a few aquariums and terrariums in there with my octopus and lizard. And it's important to note that I have a sign on the door that says no step on snake. With that context, I had a guy over at my house for a hookup and we met at a bar, judge if you want. For some reason, he went upstairs to use the bathroom but opened the snake door. Am I the asshole for not warning my hookup about the snake room? He yelled from upstairs and slammed the door and said there's a snake in the house. I said that's my snake and she's chill. He came downstairs screaming at me saying that I should have warned him and that I was a crazy B-word for having a snake in a room. I asked why he was going through my rooms anyways and he said he assumed that I would meet him in my bedroom. I told him there was literally a sign saying the snake was there, but he still called me crazy. Then he walked out and told me I should have told him. Am I wrong for calling the cops on my neighbor after they took a package off my porch? I, 38 female, live alone in the house I grew up in. It was left to me by my mother after she passed away 10 years ago. For the past 4 years, I've had issues with these specific neighbors. For example, there was an issue where their dog would jump the fence and chase my cats. I told them if I saw it again, I'd call the cops, and they asked if I'd be willing to split the cost of a taller privacy fence. I refused, but they did end up putting in the taller fence. Then they asked me to split the cost of taking down an ash tree that was on their property. It was 10% on my property, but I still declined. They'd also thrown some loud parties, which caused me to call the cops. Am I wrong for calling the cops on my neighbor after they took a package off my porch? I'm out of town visiting family for a couple of weeks and have a friend that comes over to my house every day to check on my cats and check for mail. I got a notification the other day that some packages were delivered, so I texted my friend to let them know. Before my friend could get there, I got a notification from my Ring doorbell. I saw my neighbor on my patio and asked him what he was doing, and he said a package of theirs got delivered to my house by mistake. I told him to leave and that my friend would bring over his package. He said he's not waiting, and I told him if he takes it, I'm calling the cops. He shoved the package in front of the camera and said that's my name and address. He took it and I called the cops. Am I wrong for calling my friend cringe after he asked an exotic dancer on a date? So my friend and I went to the club last night and he seemed to be really into one of the dancers. He kept trying to chat her up during her set and I could tell she was just being polite, but he didn't seem to get the hint. After she finished her set, he asked her if she wanted to go on a date with him sometime and she politely declined. She told him she wasn't interested in dating customers and my friend seemed pretty disappointed but didn't make a big deal of it. But I'm gonna be honest, it bothered me, so later after we left the club, I told him it was cringe. I said it was disrespectful to her and her job and he got super defensive. Am I wrong?
Storytime about how my boyfriend was hiding his 2-year relationship from me. So a little background information, I was 18 and a senior in high school. And in the middle of the school year, I had a new student in my 4th period class who we're going to call Jose, and he was 17 years old and in 11th grade. Now, he wasn't technically new because I'd seen him around school and everything like that. But up until this point, neither of us knew that each other existed. So he gets introduced to the class, blah, blah, blah. He sits in the very back of the room. And I knew that this man was going to be my boyfriend. So when I got home that day, I was texting my friend about him. Thankfully, she gave me his Snapchat. Fast forward, we're talking and elevators get brought up. Now, in my school, you are not allowed to use the elevators unless you're injured or for some other reason. Well, he was talking about how he always used the elevators and nobody really cared. So I meet him at the elevator the next day and blah, blah, blah. We start flirting. And this led to him and I being super close. Like, we would FaceTime every day. We would always sit together at lunch, in class. So like I said, every day after that, him and I were pretty much inseparable. We would FaceTime literally 24/7. We would always sit together during lunch, during class. Well, the one day I'm sitting in my homeroom and he comes in and he asked me to be his girlfriend. Of course, I said yes. So fast forward to Halloween, my family was handing out candy and he was going trick-or-treating with his family because he had younger siblings. And this is where our families were supposed to meet, but he didn't end up coming to my neighborhood, which I was super happy about. Well, then fast forward to my birthday. Our families were supposed to meet again, but it didn't end up happening again. And I wasn't really sure if this was the reason why things got weird between him and I. The one night I was over at my friend's house and Jose's on FaceTime with me. And I was talking about how I could pick him up and him and I could hang out. And he literally just didn't even say anything. So I was like, okay, is that a no? So then he was like, I don't know, I might be busy, blah, 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 blah. So like I said, him and I are on FaceTime. I'm asking him if he wants to hang out, and he's being super weird about it, being super standoffish. Well, fast forward a little bit, he seemed like he wasn't interested in me anymore, and it really hurt my feelings, obviously. So he didn't talk to me the rest of the day, and then he texted me the next day. And he was telling me how different we are, and how we barely have anything in common, and how we rushed into things. Pretty much a bunch of shitty excuses as to why he thinks that we should break up. Well, after that, him and I don't speak for a few days, and then I had a fake account on Instagram, and after our breakup, I viewed his story the one day. So then I look at his Instagram story, he posted a picture of another girl with a heart, and then I found her account, and she had pictures of them dating back from like 2 years ago. Now, still to this day, I don't know if he was cheating on her or if they were on a break or whatever, but I also thought that it was weird that they were dating because she was 19 and he was 17.